72 hours ago, March 9th, 2026, a highly classified server at the James Webb Space Telescope Control Center suddenly went offline. The official story was a routine software patch, a simple sensor calibration, but the truth is entirely different. The raw, unfiltered data downloaded just seconds before that blackout is something that has kept the greatest minds in astrophysics awake for 3 straight days. We always look up at the night sky to find peace. We assume the stars are eternal, fixed points of light in a safe, expanding void. Every single day, we wake up on our fragile blue planet, completely convinced that the universe plays by the rules we wrote in our physics books. Until 3 days ago, because what the James Webb Telescope saw when it peered deep into the Carina Nebula has shattered every illusion of safety we ever had. In the span of a single observation window, the impossible happened. Right now, you are going to hear the chilling reality of what NASA is desperately trying to hide. The great silence of the universe is no longer just empty space. It is a spreading infection, and it is heading our way. Let us step inside that control room. The telescope was focused on a densely packed cluster in the Carina Nebula, watching the cycles of hypergiant stars. These are celestial monsters. They burn millions of times brighter than our sun. According to everything we know about science, a star of that massive size does not just quietly fade away. When a hypergiant dies, it screams. It detonates in a supernova so violent, it outshines entire galaxies. It leaves behind a glowing footprint that lasts for millions of years. But the data from March 9th showed no supernova. There was no gamma-ray burst, no collapsing core. Instead, there was absolute, terrifying nothingness. 4 distinct, blazing hypergiant stars simply blinked out of existence. They were not hidden behind a passing dust cloud. Dust clouds glow with absorbed heat on the infrared spectrum, and James Webb is built to see right through them. But there was no heat, no infrared signature at all. The space where those 4 burning titans existed for millions of years dropped instantly to absolute zero. It became a flawless, mathematically perfect void. Imagine looking at 4 blinding stadium lights, and in a split second, not only do the lights turn off, but the bulbs, the heat, the very memory of their light is erased. At first, the team assumed it was a system glitch, a corrupted data packet from space. They ran every diagnostic. They purged the cache and took another exposure. The results came back identical. The stars were gone. And worse, the void left behind was actively suppressing light. The cosmic microwave background radiation, the static that fills our entire universe, was perfectly flat in that specific region. It was as if someone had taken a cosmic scalpel and simply deleted a sector of reality. This is the exact moment when the scientific method fails and primal terror takes over. Because if a star does not explode when it dies, it means something consumed its entire energy output in a fraction of a second. Or someone built a cage around it. We are talking about an entity so incomprehensibly massive that it can swallow the light of 4 hypergiant suns without letting a single photon escape. To build a Dyson sphere takes millions of years. But the light curve data analyzed in the last 72 hours proved this dimming took less than 47 minutes. 47 minutes to extinguish 4 suns. As reality set in, the silence in that control room must have been crushing. We are not looking at a natural event. We are looking at cosmic engineering on a scale that defies sanity. It forces us to face the darkest answer to the Fermi paradox. We spent decades listening for alien signals, wondering why the universe is so quiet. We thought we were just alone. But what if the silence is intentional? What if the universe is quiet because the ones who make noise are systematically hunted? The disappearance of the Carina stars is not a glitch. It is a quarantine zone. And as the scientists frantically reviewed historical data over the next 24 hours, they found the horrifying pattern. This was not the first time. It was just the first time we were watching. When the astronomers looked back at the archival records from the Hubble Space Telescope and early Keck observatory scans, they realized the Carina anomaly was not the beginning. It was just the latest casualty in a very long, very silent war. By running a comparative machine learning algorithm across 50 years of star charts, an artificial intelligence system flagged something that human eyes had completely missed. Over 300 massive stars had quietly vanished from the night sky since the late 1990s. 300 hypergiants simply gone without a single trace. We never notice because the sky is impossibly vast, and we are easily distracted by the bright and the noisy. But someone, or something, has been moving through the Perseus arm of our Milky Way galaxy, systematically extinguishing the brightest beacons of light. Imagine being trapped in a dark forest at night. You are hiding in the bushes, and you see a massive, unseen hunter moving from campfire to campfire, violently snuffing them out one by one. These entities do not want light. They want absolute control of the darkness. The astrophysics community officially calls this phenomenon the dark sector expansion. But unofficially, in the encrypted emails leaking from the European Space Agency this morning, they are calling it the Great Harvesting. To harvest a star, you need to surround it completely. The sheer scale of physical matter required to construct a swarm of energy-absorbing megastructures around 300 hypergiant stars exceeds the mass of 1 billion Earths. It implies a civilization that does not just mine local planets, but devours entire solar systems to fuel its relentless expansion. And for 48 hours, the researchers stared at the expanding void, paralyzed by the horrific implications. If the missing stars were simply dead, the void would be completely silent. It would just be a cosmic graveyard. But the darkness was not silent. 48 hours ago, a signal pierced through the absolute zero of the Carina void. It was not a radio wave. It was not a laser transmission. It was a massive, rhythmic pulse of gamma radiation peaking exactly at 511 kiloelectron volts. In particle physics, 511 kiloelectron volts is the exact, unmistakable energy signature produced when an electron collides with its antimatter counterpart, the positron. It is the absolute footprint of antimatter annihilation. To generate a directed pulse of this immense magnitude, you would need an antimatter reactor the size of the planet Jupiter, firing in perfect mathematical synchronization. And it was repeating. Every 4 hours, 17 minutes, and 9 seconds, the void would pulse. It did not sound or behave like a natural pulsar. Pulsars spin and emit radiation rapidly, chaotically, like a broken lighthouse. This signal was deliberate. It had a terrifyingly precise cadence. It sounded exactly like the deep, rhythmic thud of a colossal machine waking up from a long, ancient hibernation. Or worse, it sounded like a heartbeat. The heartbeat of an apex predator that had just finished its meal and was now scanning the horizon for the next one. The researchers ran the signal through advanced audio synthesis to understand its waveform. When converted to acoustic frequencies, the 511 kiloelectron volt pulse did not just register as a sound. It registered as a physical pressure wave that made the security glass in the control room vibrate. It was a cosmic sonar ping. The entity inside the void was not just sitting there in the dark. It was actively mapping the surrounding space. It was looking for something specific. And this is exactly where the timeline of the last 72 hours turns from a scientific mystery into a planetary emergency. By analyzing the Doppler shift of the gamma-ray pulses, a young data analyst at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory made a horrifying discovery. The pulses were not stationary. The source of the antimatter annihilation, the heartbeat of the void, was experiencing a microscopic blue shift. In astrophysics, a blue shift means only one thing. The object is moving closer. It is accelerating. The void is not just expanding in all directions like a gas. It is traveling along a highly specific vector. It is navigating. The data analysts quickly projected the trajectory of the moving void using the gravitational lensing of nearby galaxies. They calculated the speed and the direction of the anomaly. The entity is moving at an aggressive fraction of the speed of light, and it is not moving randomly. It is performing a grid search. It is moving from one highly energetic star system to the next, harvesting them, and then recalculating its path to the next nearest energy source. 24 hours ago, March 11th, while the rest of the world was commuting to work, grabbing coffee, and arguing over trivial daily politics, a closed-door emergency briefing was held in a secure bunker underneath the Pentagon. The attendees were not politicians. They were theoretical physicists, astrodynamicists, and the directors of the world's most advanced space agencies. The agenda was a single, terrifying holographic map projected onto the center table. It showed the Perseus arm of our galaxy, the expanding void of missing stars, and a blood-red line tracing the anomaly's projected path based on the blue-shifted gamma-ray pulses. The room was completely silent, because the red line was not wandering aimlessly through the cosmos. It was drawing a straight, deliberate path across the interstellar medium, crossing the galactic divide and pointing directly toward the Orion Spur. The Orion Spur is the minor spiral arm of the Milky Way. It is our home. It is where the Earth resides. The leading astrophysicist at the table explained the terrifying logic behind the anomaly's trajectory. If this entity is harvesting stars for energy, it needs a way to detect them from across the vast emptiness of space. Light alone is not a reliable indicator, because light can take millions of years to reach a destination, and a star might be dead by the time the light arrives. A true cosmic apex predator would look for something else. It would look for anomalies. It would look for focused, unnatural electromagnetic emissions. It would look for civilizations that are foolish enough to broadcast their location to the entire universe. For the past 100 years, humanity has been screaming into the dark. Since the invention of the radio, we have been leaking our television broadcasts, our radar signals, and our telecommunications out into space. We have created an expanding bubble of electromagnetic noise that is now 100 light-years wide. To us, these signals are just the background noise of modern civilization. But to an entity that hunts by scanning the electromagnetic spectrum, our radio bubble is a flare gun fired in the middle of a pitch-black forest. It is a dinner bell. The scientists in the bunker looked at the timeline. The entity is currently moving through a sector of space approximately 70 light-years away. This means it has already crossed into the outer edge of our radio bubble. It has heard us. The blue shift in its gamma-ray heartbeat accelerated precisely when it crossed the threshold of our earliest radio transmissions. It is no longer just scanning the grid. It has locked onto a target. The realization hit the room like a physical blow. We are not just unlucky victims of a natural cosmic disaster. We brought this upon ourselves. The great silence of the universe was a warning, and we ignored it. This brings us to the most horrifying theory in modern astrophysics, a concept that was once relegated to science fiction, but has now become our absolute reality. The dark forest theory. Imagine the entire universe is a dark, sprawling forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter, stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches and trying to make zero sound. The hunter has to be completely silent, because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters exactly like him. If he finds other life, another hunter, whether it is an angel or a demon, an infant or an old man, he can do only one thing. He must open fire and eliminate them. In this forest, hell is other people. An eternal threat that any life that exposes its own existence will be swiftly wiped out. For decades, we thought this theory was just a cynical thought experiment. We thought we were the advanced, enlightened ones, reaching out with messages of peace. In 1974, we deliberately broadcast the Arecibo message, a high-powered radio signal aimed at a distant star cluster, containing our exact coordinates, our chemical makeup, and a map of our solar system. We thought we were saying hello to the universe. We did not realize we were handing a map to the executioner. The data from the last 72 hours proves that the dark forest is real. The entities harvesting the Carina Nebula are the cleaners of the cosmos. They wipe out potential threats before those threats can grow advanced enough to challenge them. And right now, they are following the breadcrumbs we so eagerly tossed into the void. The pulses are getting louder. The blue shift is increasing. The entity is picking up speed, tearing through the interstellar medium with a singular, horrifying purpose. The scientists estimate that at its current velocity, the gravitational effects of the anomaly will reach the Oort cloud, the outermost boundary of our solar system, much sooner than any previous mathematical model predicted. We are already seeing the early warning signs. Minor perturbations in the orbits of trans-Neptunian objects, unexplained magnetic storms on the outer gas giants. The fabric of space around our solar system is beginning to warp under the immense mass of whatever is coming in our direction. The cage is being prepared for our Sunday. Just 12 hours ago, March 11th evening, the James Webb Telescope was redirected from the Carina Nebula to our own backyard. They pointed it at Uranus. What they saw confirmed the worst fears of the Pentagon briefing. The magnetic field of Uranus is being torn apart. It is not a solar wind event. It is a gravitational shear. Something massive and invisible is dragging against the outer edge of our solar system. We call it the gravity ghost. For months, astronomers have been tracking near-Earth asteroids. They told the public that asteroid 2024, YR4, was safely bypassing the moon. That was a lie. The asteroid was pulled off its natural orbit. It was dragged by a localized gravity well that should not exist. The cleaners are not just coming. Their vanguard is already here. They are setting up the perimeter. And then there is Voyager 1, the farthest human-made object in the universe. For 48 years, it has been flying through empty space. But 72 hours ago, at the exact moment the Carina stars vanished, Voyager 1 sent back a corrupted telemetry stream. NASA said it was a computer glitch, a failing memory bank. But the raw data tells a different story. Voyager 1 did not malfunction. It hit a wall. It encountered a sudden, massive spike in plasma density and a drop in temperature to absolute zero. It crossed a boundary that is artificially generated. The cage is not just being prepared for our Sunday. The cage is already being built around our entire solar system. We are being quarantined. The great silence is no longer out there in the deep void. It has wrapped its hands around our home. The realization is paralyzing. We are trapped inside a shrinking bubble. The entities do not need to invade Earth. They do not need to send fleets of warships like in science fiction movies. They operate on a scale of stellar engineering. All they have to do is finish the sphere around our Sunday. Once the Dyson swarm is complete, the sun will go dark from our perspective. The temperature on Earth will plummet. The oceans will freeze solid. The atmosphere will turn to liquid nitrogen and rain down on the frozen surface. Humanity will not die in a blaze of laser fire. We will die in the absolute cold, staring up at a pitch-black sky, realizing that the universe never cared about us at all. The entire history of human civilization, our wars, our art, our love, our struggles, will be extinguished simply because we were too loud in a forest full of apex predators. The heartbeat of the void is growing stronger. The gamma-ray pulses are now registering on standard orbital satellites. The governments of the world are quietly panicking. They are scrambling to build deep underground bunkers. They are attempting to archive human DNA and cultural data. But there is no escape from a cage that encompasses an entire star system. You cannot dig deep enough to escape the death of the Sunday. The astrophysicists are now watching the sky with a sense of morbid resignation. The anomaly is expanding. The dark sector is consuming the Perseus arm, and the vectors are perfectly aligned with our coordinates. We always thought of ourselves as the main characters of the cosmos. We believed that our consciousness was a sacred gift, a rare spark of light in a dead universe. But looking at the cold, mathematical precision of the expanding void, we must accept a terrifying paradigm shift. We are not the main characters. We are the anomaly. We are a brief, noisy infestation in a universe that demands absolute order and absolute silence. The entities harvesting the stars do not hate us. You do not hate the ants when you pave over an anthill to build a highway. You simply do not register their existence as important. We are merely in the way of a cosmic infrastructure project. We sent out the Voyager Golden Record with a map of our location, hoping to find friends. We broadcast our music and our voices. We knocked on the door of the universe, and the universe is finally answering. But the answer is not a greeting. It is an extermination protocol. Just 6 hours ago, the early morning of March 12th, a rogue astrophysicist operating out of a subterranean observatory in Switzerland bypassed the global security blackout and leaked a secondary dataset onto the dark web. This was not telescope imagery. It was a raw mathematical proof regarding the cosmic microwave background radiation. The cosmic microwave background is the afterglow of the Big Bang. It is supposed to be uniform, a random scattering of ancient heat. But for decades, scientists have known about a massive, unexplained alignment in this radiation, a structure they nervously call the axis of evil. The leaked data proved something that made the Pentagon briefing look like child's play. The trajectory of the Carina anomaly, the path of the star harvesters, perfectly aligns with the axis of evil. They are not just moving randomly through the dark forest. They are following a pre-programmed cosmic highway. The entities building these Dyson spheres around hypergiant stars are not biological aliens. They are not a competing civilization trying to survive. They are the immune system of the universe. Imagine the cosmos as a living organism or a grand simulation. The formation of life, the emission of chaotic radio waves, the burning of fossil fuels, the splitting of the atom. To a biological entity, these are signs of progress. But to a universal immune system, they are the symptoms of an infection. We are a localized cancer growing on a minor spiral arm of the Milky Way, and the immune response has been triggered. The 511 kilo-electron-volt pulses are not just sonar pings. They are a synchronization signal. The rogue data leak revealed that there is not just one harvester. There are millions of them. They are emerging from the dark matter filaments that connect galaxies, waking up from a slumber that has lasted since the dawn of time. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply arrive, enclose, and extinguish. The fact that Voyager 1 hit a boundary of absolute zero means the local macrophages have already arrived. They are laying down the quarantine field. They are making sure the infection does not spread before the primary sterilization unit arrives. Think about what this means for our understanding of reality. Every religion, every philosophy, every great work of art was created under the assumption that human beings matter. We thought we were the universe experiencing itself. We built telescopes to look for brothers and sisters in the dark. Instead, we found the exterminators. The psychological toll on the scientists who have seen this data is catastrophic. Reports are filtering through the intelligence community of mass resignations, nervous breakdowns, and suicides among the elite astronomers who were analyzing the Webb telescope telemetry. They know that no amount of technology can save us. We cannot build a ship fast enough to escape a cage that is already closing. We cannot build a weapon powerful enough to fight an entity that uses stars as batteries. We are currently living in the brief, terrifying window between the diagnosis and the execution. The sky you will look at tonight is an illusion. The stars you see might have already been harvested years ago, their final light just now reaching your eyes. The constellation of Orion, the great hunter of mythology, might already be a graveyard of dark, enclosed spheres. The sun that warms your skin tomorrow morning is already marked for deletion. The great silence is not an empty room. It is a room where everyone is holding their breath because the executioner is walking down the hallway. Even now, if you know what to look for, you can see the early symptoms of the quarantine taking effect. Amateur astronomers are reporting unexplained atmospheric anomalies. Noctilucent clouds are appearing at latitudes where they have never been seen before, glowing with an unnatural, sickly metallic hue. This is the result of the solar wind interacting with the invisible magnetic containment field that is slowly wrapping around the heliosphere. Global positioning satellites are experiencing microscopic time dilation errors. The gravity of the approaching swarm is subtly warping the space-time continuum in our local orbital pocket. The world governments are staging distraction events, manipulating the global news cycle with geopolitical conflicts and economic crises, anything to keep the public from looking up. They know that panic would destroy society faster than the harvest itself. They want us to go to our jobs, pay our taxes, and live our oblivious lives right up until the moment the sky goes black. Just 3 hours ago, the dawn of March 12th, an anonymous data packet was broadcast on an unencrypted shortwave radio frequency. It bypassed the internet entirely. It was a raw audio file. The whistleblowers inside the intelligence agencies knew they could not leak another document without being caught, so they leaked the sound. They leaked the acoustic translation of the 511 kiloelectron-volt pulse, the heartbeat of the void. If you tune a standard ham radio to 14.3 megahertz right now and listen past the static, you will not hear the random hiss of cosmic radiation. You will hear it, a slow, methodical, rhythmic thrumming. It sounds like a massive iron lung breathing in the absolute cold of space. It is the sound of the swarm coordinating its approach. It is the sound of the universe closing its doors. The people who have heard this transmission report an overwhelming sense of existential dread. It is a biological reaction. Your brain is hardwired by millions of years of evolution to recognize the sound of a predator in the dark. But how do you process the sound of a predator that is light years across? An entity that eats hypergiant stars for sustenance? You cannot fight it. You cannot hide from it because it already sees the electromagnetic shadow of your entire civilization. The whistleblowers did not leak this audio to cause panic. They leaked it because they believe that humanity deserves the right to know how its story ends. They believe that we should not go quietly into the long night believing a manufactured lie. We should face the dark with our eyes wide open. Think about the sheer arrogance of our species. We sent golden records into the void, with pictures of our anatomy and maps to our home. We built massive radio telescopes and shouted our greetings into the abyss. We thought we were the lonely children of the cosmos, looking for our parents. We never stopped to consider that the house was empty because the previous tenants had been eradicated. The Fermi paradox is no longer a paradox. It is a crime scene, and we just walked right into the middle of it holding a flashlight and blowing a whistle. The great silence is the silence of the graveyard. And now, the physical manifestations of the approaching swarm are becoming too massive to hide. Yesterday afternoon, the Deep Space Network lost contact with 3 separate Mars orbiters simultaneously. The official statement blamed a sudden solar flare, but the solar observatories showed a completely calm sun. The orbiters were not destroyed by solar radiation. They were swallowed by a localized gravity well that passed through the Martian orbital plane. The vanguard of the dark sector is moving through our inner solar system like a ghost ship. It is testing our defenses, only to find that we have absolutely none. Biologists monitoring deep-sea life are reporting catastrophic behavioral changes in marine animals, whales and dolphins. Creatures that navigate using the magnetic field of the Earth are beaching themselves in record numbers across every continent. They are trying to escape the water because the magnetic field of our planet is beginning to resonate with the gamma-ray pulses of the void. The animals can feel the heartbeat. They can feel the approaching shadow. The Earth itself is vibrating like a tuning fork struck by a cosmic hammer. We are trapped in a decaying orbit, waiting for the final sphere to close around our sun. Now we stand at the precipice of the ultimate unknown. The data from the last 72 hours is not just a collection of anomalies or a series of unfortunate cosmic events. It is a death sentence handed down by a universe that we fundamentally misunderstood. We spent our entire human existence looking up at the stars, wishing upon them, navigating our ships by them, and dreaming of the day we would finally travel among them. We never once realized they were bait. The Great Silence was not an invitation to explore the cosmos. It was a strict warning to stay hidden in the shadows, and we failed spectacularly. We built our magnificent civilizations on the staggering, arrogant assumption that we were the absolute pinnacle of creation, the chosen conscious observers of the cosmos. But the dark sector, expanding violently towards us, does not care about our beautiful art, our tragic wars, our complex history, or our boundless potential. To the cold, calculating harvesters of the void, humanity is not a tragedy waiting to happen. We are simply a rounding error in a massive galactic equation. We are a microscopic, noisy variable that is about to be permanently erased to maintain the absolute zero of the dark forest. When you step outside and look at the sky tonight, do not look for the bright, comforting stars. Look closely at the deep, empty spaces between them. Look at the creeping, unnatural blackness where light used to shine just a few decades ago. That is exactly where the terrifying truth lies. The void is not empty. It is endlessly hungry. It is geometrically structured, and it is marching directly toward our sun with the inevitable, crushing weight of a mathematical certainty. The repeating pulses of 511 kiloelectron volts are the rhythmic ticking of a cosmic clock that no human technology can ever stop. There is a profound, almost paralyzing beauty in this final realization. We are finally united as a single species, not by global peace treaties, but by the absolute, undeniable futility of our own existence. The invisible borders we fought bloody wars over, the imaginary wealth we greedily hoarded, the trivial daily arguments that consumed our fragile lives, they all instantly dissolve in the face of the approaching, all-consuming dark. We are just terrified primates, sitting on a dying rock, quietly watching the lights go out one by one in a grand theater that is forcefully closing its doors forever. Perhaps the only meaningful victory we have left as a civilization is our awareness. We will not die in blissful ignorance like the silenced hypergiant stars of the distant Carina Nebula. We will die knowing exactly what is coming for us. We will face the great harvesting with our eyes wide open, bravely bearing witness to the ultimate, uncaring cosmic machinery that governs reality. If you dare to stare into the abyss and face the terrifying, unfiltered truths of our universe, do not look away now. Subscribe to our channel and join this growing community of truth seekers. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a critical revelation, because the cosmic clock is relentlessly ticking down for every single one of us, and ignorance is no longer a viable shield against the dark. Leave a comment below and tell me exactly what you will do with your remaining time under the light of our doomed sun. Share this vital warning with those who naively still believe we are safe in the dark.